Batman Death in the Family, the hottest, most exciting date you've ever had, who turns out to be the most boring person you've ever talked to. I do my best not to post negative content for the sake of negativity, but having a YouTube series here on the channel called DC Animated Movie Show, I couldn't see a way out of this review for Death in the Family. Not to worry if you haven't seen it yet, this will be a spoiler-free review of Death in the Family. I can promise it'll be short and not so sweet. And bitterness aside, this Blu-ray does actually feature 4 other awesome DC Showcase shorts beside Death in the Family, making at least 10 of my 20 hard-earned dollars seem worth it. If you're new here, then please consider subscribing to the channel and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. Stay tuned for the ongoing DC Animated Movie Show right here on Above and Batman Beyond. To preface my mostly negative review of Death in the Family, here's me back in August, right before Fandom Day 1, bursting with excitement. Just this week, Warner Bros. Home Entertainment dropped a trailer for an interactive, choose-your-own-adventure animated adaptation of DC's Death in the Family. So young, so naive, and wait for it, into what is hopefully one of the greatest DC animated Blu-rays we're ever gonna get. Ah, poor guy. If you haven't seen that video on Death in the Family, then click this link right up here for that, as well as our entire DCAM playlist. And we also may as well use that guy to explain the interactive feature, since I'd rather not work myself up again, to be honest. From IGN, Death in the Family isn't a straightforward prequel, but rather an interactive short film with multiple branching story paths. Again, very similar to
Bandersnatch.
Banda what?
IGN continues. Viewers will be presented with choices at pivotal moments in the story, allowing them to decide whether Jason lives or dies and determining the course of Jason's life. So, now that you're caught up on how this movie works and how I used to be a happier person, here it is. Death in the Family? Huge disappointment. Especially because of how beloved Red Hood is, I am just perplexed as to how something as purely good as Red Hood, made by mostly the same creative team, could come out this poorly.
Nobody knows that better than me.
Again, you get to choose for the characters in the story, determining the outcome at certain pivotal moments. I'll admit that the first story path I chose actually went somewhere interesting in my opinion. Again, this is a spoiler-free review, so without giving anything away, I chose, for example, Batman saves Robin at the most famous point early in the story, where you get to choose the life or death of Jason Todd. I chose save since this would be the most different outcome from the one we know in Red Hood and back in the OG comic in 1988. Without giving anything away, again, it went somewhere interesting. At first. But then the second story choice, just a few minutes later, it kind of started off interesting, but then got very boring very quickly. And unfortunately, every other option and story path combination I've seen thus far has done exactly the same thing, if not worse. Shout out to my co-host here on the channel, Eli Benson, and check out his spoiler-free review as well from his very powerful Instagram, @Batman_Beyond_fan page. Eli pointed out how much of this supposedly new release was just repurposed content from Red Hood. Reusing some of the content from Red Hood was totally expected, but again, without giving anything away, I ended up turning off one of the story paths after nearly 13 minutes of nothing but voiceover recaps of OG Red Hood footage, meaning almost none of it was new content. Not even like, meanwhile, during the events of Red Hood, here's something new you've never seen from a different POV. It was literally 13 minutes of recapping a movie we've already seen. I am not one to turn off these DC animated movies. And one of my biggest criticisms of this movie is exactly that. Even as a diehard collector and obsessor and YouTuber of these movies, even the weakest of them, I feel, generally get the same love and attention and quality. Again, from Eli, this was just lazy content. I felt the exact same way. From writing to even animation, several sequences looked like half a step up from a motion comic. The movement was so bad. And with writing, there was a ton of this hypothetical exposition. So, almost no action, instead people talking about these hypothetical outcomes for a Batman story. I'm still just so confused as to how this passed for a new release. Prequel, interactive, whatever. This was just an unfinished product at best, and should not have been released until it was done. Great concept, perfect idea for an interactive adaptation, but a shockingly poor execution. Now what should have been released on this Blu-ray, and quite frankly the best part of this Blu-ray, are the 4 previously released DC Showcase shorts, all included on this one disc. So there's Death from Neil Gaiman's Sandman, not to be confused with Death in the Family, then Phantom Stranger,
Adam Strange,
and Sgt Rock. And if you're as obsessed with the Timmverse as we are, both Sgt Rock and Phantom Stranger are produced and directed by Bruce Timm. And the character design of Phantom Stranger in particular is straight out the classic DCAU. And then Adam Strange is directed by a huge name in Batman Beyond, Butch Lukic. Typically we get one of these showcase shorts per one DCAM feature starting in 2019 up to now. And to be clear, not every feature, just every few, come with a new short. So for example, 2020's Adam Strange came with the JL Dark Apocalypse War Blu-ray, and 2019's Wonder Woman Bloodlines came with Death. Death and Adam Strange were the only two I'd seen until the Death in the Family Blu-ray, and the other two are just as good as these, and exceptionally good too. I'd say even better than a lot of the DCAM features we've gotten over the years. And be sure to stick around here at the channel for our upcoming interview with Christopher Carter, 1/3 of the famous Dynamic Music Partners, who composed several of the shorts we talked about today, as well as the score for Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. So to wrap up this reluctant review for Batman Death in the Family, I sadly don't recommend paying full price for this movie. And I'm saying that even as a completionist collector of these movies, I normally buy them like clockwork. And once again, almost none of them have disappointed me as much as Death in the Family. If you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel and share this video with other Bat fans beyond who would also like this kind of content. We also have a bunch of interviews here on the channel with cast and crew from Batman Beyond, including both Batmen of the future, Kevin Conroy and Will Friedle. So make sure to stay tuned to the channel for more interview content as well.